Hi, everybody. My name is Ian Kenny. I'm the head of product management at cPacket Networks. I've been involved in all things networking, from switches to all kinds of other products for a very long time. And it is my privilege today to be able to present this webinar to you about packet capture and analytics. So here we are, packet capture and analytics, solving critical issues for the hybrid cloud enterprise. Lots of interesting and exciting words in that title to work through today. I will say, and I'm sure it'll pop up at the bottom of the screen, but if there's a question or something that pops into your mind or something you'd like followed up on later, possibly, just put that all in the chat. Once again, let's say happy to try and answer things live, so to speak, or if there's something that you would like us to, as I say, follow up on later or connect over. And as I say, I will have my LinkedIn details at the end of the presentation. Okay, but anyway, enough about me. Who's this cPacket company anyway? Well, obviously you may have joined me or some of my other teammates here at cPacket for various webinars in the past. Maybe packet brokering, maybe cloud, maybe more technical webinars, etc. But the key thing is that cPacket is one of the backbones behind driving a lot of very demanding enterprise environments, especially things like equity trading, foreign exchange, global markets. The majority of those are running through cPacket devices. Similarly, mission-critical networks in technology, healthcare, and government-based systems really depend on cPacket for all kinds of functions, whether it be packet brokering to tools, which we're not really talking about today, or what we are talking about today, capture and analytics, to make sure that you can understand exactly what is going on in your infrastructure. So cPacket was founded way back 2007, maybe a little earlier if you're familiar with the history, based in San Jose, California, but having a global presence, making sure that we can work with and partner with and engage with our global customers all day long. So anyway, if you aren't using cPacket, you probably should be, or hopefully by the end of this webinar, you'll believe that and potentially reach out to talk to us further. But what brings all of these customers or all of these folks that we work with, what does it bring them together? Well, this is a kind of an odd phrase, but the concept of a zero downtime enterprise, what a strange word that is. And what is that? Well, the key thing with a zero downtime enterprise, it's an organization who really cares about their infrastructure. I know that sounds a very strange thing to say. If you're working in networking, maybe you're leading a team, maybe you're the person in the trenches really working with infrastructure. The bottom line is you're like, well, of course I care about my infrastructure. Well, not everyone cares as much as you do. And therefore, when we talk to these clients, people who want to engage, who do engage with cPacket, it's really about making sure that they're bringing together all aspects of their infrastructure and making sure that they absolutely are driving for zero downtime. I don't think anybody who works in networking is that naive to say that we can always achieve that, but at least to understand exactly what's going on, what happened, when it happened, how it happened, etc., is going to help you understand your infrastructure. And once again, packet capture and analytics is part of that story. This is a favorite slide of mine, and if you've heard any of my webinars before, you probably have seen it before. Key thing is that cPacket started in that bottom, whatever color, yellow, mustard of this diagram called data, building ASICs, using FPGAs and creating systems and tools which are able to process every bit of every packet. And that's really important if you really are operating in a zero downtime enterprise. Averaging, chopping, dropping, all of those words are bad when you need to make sure you have all of the data. And then we added analytics and information. It's called your analytics, the idea of capture and analytics, which is what we're really focused on today in this presentation. And at the top there's you, that little brain picture. The idea that you need to make decisions about your infrastructure. You need to make decisions about increasing capacity. You need to make decisions about what went wrong. How do you reduce the impact of whatever did go wrong from happening again? And that's absolutely vital. So if you've got all of the packets, you've got highly accurate analytics, then you at the top are going to make the best decision you know how. And then you have that little line at the bottom. Network data is the single source of truth. I have the opportunity, maybe not quite every week, but certainly on a very regular basis, to attend events, to visit customers in person, to connect via Zoom, whatever it might be. And their driving force, the driving message from these customers is that they believe that the network data is the single source of truth. So let's look at a couple of quotes. I thought this would be fun to put in here today, just to give you that little bit of context. Wire data has better reliability than endpoint data. It's not that endpoint data is bad in some sense, but the bottom line is the wire data, the packets that are traversing your infrastructure, are where all of the details are to be found. We'll show you that in just a second. This is a great quote. Picked up somewhere. The network is the only thing that connects all digital transactions. Even today, even this conversation that we're having today, is part of a digital transaction. Maybe the transaction's a little bit, it's soft in this sense. You wanted to join a webinar, you clicked on a link in LinkedIn, and here you are. But the point is that packet data is essential for troubleshooting those hard to solve network application problems. If this link drops today, you might be sad, you might want me to replay it at another time, but it's not, going to be the end of the world. The key thing is that you could be working on networks where the applications that you are serving to your customer base are critical to your environment. And similarly, this is just another quote picked up on my travels. The bottom line is that, the value of packet data is the definitive source of evidence, right, for helping prevent data breaches. Now, we're not heavily focused on security per se today. Maybe I need to do another webinar to talk about that. But the bottom line is that packets are critical in truly understanding your infrastructure. Could be from a security side, and we partner with lots of amazing security vendors. Happy to talk about that more later as well, if you would like. But the bottom line is that we want to make sure that you're leveraging that packet data, all the packet data, to create the best analytics to allow you to make the best decisions possible. Okay, let's go. So this is a picture that you've probably seen if you've joined any of my webinars before, just highlighting where we're focusing today. We've got these what called C-store or packet capture appliances, and that's a hardware appliance in your traditional data center model, or a virtual appliance in a cloud or virtualized system. And they're both being brought together by the control center or the C-Clear product at the top. Happens to fit better on the cloud side, could easily be a hardware appliance in the data center, as you will see shortly. But the bottom line is we've got lots of other things we could talk about if you are interested to do so at another time. Okay, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the presentation. So this here is an example of latency analytics. This happens to be showing market data, but clearly you're probably running, if you're running in a hybrid environment or you're using external services, you're probably having some kind of connection to other systems. Could be cloud, could be a WAN, as it shows in this picture here. Maybe I need to update this for the cloud. But the idea here is you've got packets traversing, once again, packet data, single source of truth, packet data traversing your environment. Happens to have 4 monitoring points because that fits nicely on my diagram. But clearly, there could be 20 different steps in your system. In fact, there maybe is 20 different steps, and I've seen some of the customer example topologies, and they are extremely complicated, but clearly for this slide today, it's been rather simplified. So what we have is we have the packets traversing the infrastructure, middle boxes being firewalls, load balancers, etc., etc. Then it's going over a WAN connection. As I say, it could easily be out to a cloud in the modern context, or it could be then getting back into another part of your infrastructure where people are consuming that data, whatever the application might be. As I say, happens to be using our packet brokers either side of those middle boxes, or ultimately either side of that WAN connection. And the idea is feeding that metadata as well as the packets down into the CStore or packet capture appliances. And then there's a CClear at the bottom, which is then able to visualize all of this data. And the key thing here is that top left corner, latency. You're trying to understand and ascertain exactly how long it takes to go from one side of the middle box to the other, or possibly from one side of your network all the way across the WAN into maybe another aspect of the network or out into a cloud service, etc., etc. And that will really help you quantify the latency that you're experiencing on a daily basis. And if something changes, something goes down or there's some kind of an issue, bottom line is you're going to hopefully get an alert, some triggering factor from that dashboard, from that appliance, to be able to say, help, something has happened. Something is different today than it was yesterday or half an hour ago, for that matter. So the key thing really is to try and make sure that you have that capture analytics or package capture and analytics appliance, getting all of that data. It's able to join a lot of things together, as I'm going to show you in just a second. And the idea here is that you then get that unified vision. And we have many customers who not quite sit looking at the dashboards, but at least have access to the dashboards on a screen, and they can see when something changes, something impacts their environment, or is giving a different level of response time, etc. And hopefully they'll be able to jump on that, or they do jump on that, to make sure that they're able to really address that concern before the telephone rings. I don't know if anyone still has a lot of telephones on their desks, but anyway, you know that you can get the point. It's the Slack message, it's the Teams chat, or whatever it might be. There's somebody reaches out to you and says, help, something's gone wrong, something's not working. Latency is just one tiny slice of something that might be helpful in that environment. Let's talk more generally. Let's jump into talking about TCP analytics. TCP is a critical protocol for your network. Hey, maybe you're going to put your hand up and say, TCP, I don't use any TCP. No problem. Generally speaking, people are using a range of protocols on their network. UDP, TCP, just two very simple examples. And that is a critical protocol on your infrastructure. In fact, I had a great conversation with a customer just yesterday talking about the need to be able to differentiate between the TCP values and the UDP values to make sure that they really can contextualize exactly what's going on. So we've got this analytics. Packet loss can happen. That's the fun thing about Ethernet. As I said at the start, I've been involved with Ethernet devices for a very long time, let's put it that way. And, loss is kind of part of the deal, but obviously not on your capture appliance. Anyway, the idea that packet loss can happen. So how are you going to be able to help really understand this kind of environment? So if you're looking at, once again, packet data, metadata, all of the analytics related to that, you're going to have the best understanding of all of those TCP, in this case, TCP connections. So let's look at an example. Once again, there are screeds and screeds, pages of metadata and values that you can access that might be more or less relevant for your particular use case or your particular concern. But this is just a very simple example, and I do love this little picture. So TCP retransmissions, gaps, and duplicates. So we've got a couple of packet capture appliances, a virtual one in this cloud picture, and maybe a physical one in a LAN kind of environment, and I'm joining all of that together. I didn't include the control center CClear appliance, but you can imagine. Let's say we've got that little person sitting there on the right-hand side of their console. So we've got packets going backwards and forwards, and obviously that's happening probably millions of times, all the time. This is just a very simple example. What we see is there's some kind of API gateway. That could be on any one of a number of systems or any kind of other device that's causing some kind of break in the network. So the idea here is you've got the packets going backwards and forwards, and then, hey, you've lost one. Why did you lose that packet? Well, that might be something to go and dig into, but something is now a gap. So when you start joining all of these pictures together and zipping everything together, you're going to see that you've now got a gap, and then you've got a duplicate, and you can see how long it took to happen there, what was the latency, when exactly all of these things changed. And so this is really, really important when doing this level of analytics, that you can truly understand exactly what's going on from all parts of your infrastructure. For example, if you only have that level of visibility in the LAN side, it's going to look a little strange to you. Similarly, if you're just on the cloud side, you're like, why are you sending that to me again, etc., etc., because you're only seeing part of the picture. If you can stitch everything together, once again using a cPacket system, the idea is you're able to get that full picture across all of the analytics that we have available for you. Once again, only a very simple example. If you'd like to talk about more details of exactly what is available from the metadata, etc., happy to do that afterwards. Okay, so a couple of examples on the analytics side. We've got latency across an infrastructure, and then things in a TCP context where basically things are missing. You've maybe dropped something, or you see more packets than you expected to see. That's really, really important. But actually, there are probably other things that you can do with the capture side as well. Once again, a nice architecture diagram, at least for product people like me, a little architecture diagram. This is what we're doing. We're capturing, we're writing that packet data immediately out to disk. We're doing all the indexing, we're generating the analytics, and making sure that all of that is available immediately. That's really key. If something happens in your infrastructure at a very critical point, and if you're a zero downtime enterprise, every time is a critical point. You want to be able to go back and look immediately, not to then go and generate reports and recalculate and blah, 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 all of that stuff. You want all of the data immediately accessible. And that's what we can offer you with the power of packet capture. This is, once again, whole packets, or you can slice them down, obviously, but hey, the idea, generally speaking, is whole packets. Everything's there, all of the headers, you see the timestamps, etc. You know exactly when this was received, what happened to it, etc., etc. And you can then start building out a picture of exactly what's going on right now. And not just right now, but back in time, over multiple days, etc., of capture period. Now, once again, systems are pretty large, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But the idea is that you want to make sure that you have access to the right amount of data for your organization. Maybe your organization is fine with a few hours, or maybe you're going to say, hey, we need a much longer period of time. In fact, I was with some customers recently, and they were looking for 90 days of metadata, etc., big, long periods of time. And that's all very great, and we can configure our devices appropriately. Okay, here we go. Keeping going. So we've got the capture, the packet capture system, and now let's just jump into talking about replay. Now, this is a related kind of topic. So I've captured all of those packets into my system. They're all now available. They're indexed. They're ready to go. But maybe I identify a section, a period of time where something unusual, define that yourself. And the idea is to try and be able to to pull all of those packets together to maybe use them as a data source to be able to test or evaluate your network environment. So, as I said, the captured packets are the facts, right, of what's happening in your environment. Key thing is it's not just, well, hey, we had this yesterday, we had this last week or whatever. You can know exactly what happened 2 seconds ago or 2 days ago or a week ago, all of those kinds of things. The idea to bring all of that together. So we have all that data available. That's the key thing. But maybe something happened or slipped past your other tools. Could be a security tool, could be any kind of tool that you've created yourself in your environment. So now you need to go say, well, what happened? Why did that get dropped, etc.? That is really, really critical. So what you can do is you can pull that section of packets out and you can replay them, dev test, pre-production, whatever you call it in your environment, to see what really happened, or probably more importantly, to make sure that it doesn't happen again. I'm sure many of us, wherever we're living all across the world, where maybe we have things like Ring doorbells, other video doorbells are available, like a Ring doorbell where it's got that few seconds either side of the when something changed on your doormat or whatever it was. The key thing that you also want, and if you've ever watched any of those kind of CSI type TV shows, they go back and they look for all of that security camera footage and try and recreate the time leading up to that, whatever this mysterious incident was. And I apologize for being a bit glib there, but the idea is that you don't just necessarily want that tiny snapshot, though that's obviously useful. You probably want to be able to look back in time. And therefore, that is exactly what the CStore system or a packet capture system is trying to do. It's not only about creating latency metrics. It's not only about looking at TCP retransmissions, once again, as a tiny little snapshot of the capabilities of the product, but it's also about capturing, and then it's about making that data immediately available to you or to your team or to a related team to say, hey, something happened, something went wrong, therefore we need to go and make sure we look at that again. And that's where replay really comes into force. So if we look here, as I say, just another basic, super basic picture. It's the idea that I've got a network, something is happening, I'm capturing using brokers or whatever, I'm putting it onto the capture appliance, it's then being metadata squirted out to the control center, CClear environment. But I've actually also got kind of a duplicate. Maybe it's smaller, maybe it's bigger. I've got a little duplicate network that I can use for production or to pre-production testing. So therefore, I've got my captured packets. I'm able to run like a report or whatever. I get that little block of data. It's all stored in PCAP form, as you would expect for certainly any engineers on this call today. And the idea is that's going to help you squirt that back, and you can transcode it to change your IPs, etc., to make sure it's appropriate for that pre-production system. And it'll be replayed as it was captured. Fast, slow, whatever the correct latencies are, etc., respecting the timestamps. It's a really exciting feature, and certainly one that our customers are getting a lot of use out of. Okay, let's keep going. A few more things to cover today. So this is the product that we've been talking about. Let's say the CStore. It goes all the way from 10 gig capture all the way to 100 gig capture, 2.2 petabytes kind of total system size there, and that's the raw storage size. And obviously we use on-the-fly compression to make sure that you're getting the maximum use out of these appliances, also with secure drives if you need that in your environment. Make sure no one can come along and recreate all of that confidential data. Fast querying, which I think I mentioned, proprietary flow indexing, so that the analytics, it's available immediately. That's really key. Talked about replay and the transcoding just a few seconds ago, as well as precision timestamping. That's really, really critical if you want to have that directly into your into your capture appliance to make sure that as those packets are received, they're being appropriately time-stamped if that's not present in the rest of your infrastructure. Exporting to third-party or custom tools, as I say, a natural part of the work that we do as Cpacket is making sure our tools and our partners' tools receive all of the data that they need to make sure that they're able to operate successfully and correctly. I mentioned the elastic storage, the idea of this extensible storage systems where you can have large numbers of extra drives, etc., to make sure that you've got all of the storage that you might need for your system. Wireshark, I don't think I mentioned this earlier. The spirit is the spirit of Wireshark is obviously, as we all know, we probably have it all on our laptops if we've ever worked in the trenches of doing any kind of network analytics. Back in the day, you just connected up the cable to the side of your laptop and captured it. Now with networks running in multiples of 100 gigabits per second, clearly that's probably going to overwhelm your laptop pretty quickly. So the idea here is that you can capture all of those packets onto one of these appliances and then leverage the built-in Wireshark to be able to look at the snapshots of the packets. And lastly, and pretty obviously, I suppose, centrally manageable. CClear is the kind of control center of all of these devices, and you can have them across your network, and obviously integrated with our packet brokering technology. Though obviously, you can connect this to any packet brokering device that you may already, or TAPAC device that you have deployed in your environment today. As I say, this acts as a tool, acts on the other side of that, able to capture all the packets that it gets, etc., and be able to help you make the best decisions you can. An example of that is a partnership we did recently with Cisco. This obviously was part of their Nexus data broker family, and I say we've had a great time working with them and validating the C-Store system. Once again, a nice simple diagram here, not only on the Cisco side, but also on our side of this topology. You know, clearly very large infrastructure. You've got lots of these C-stores all being brought together. And as I say, it's great to be able to take the packets from that Nexus data broker and allow customers, maybe even such as yourself, to be able to have access to these devices or to these packets for replay, etc., as part of your system. Maybe you're not a Nexus data broker customer. Maybe you've thought about it. This is maybe another use case which might tip you over the edge and allow you to explore some of the options of this. This happens to be an environment that you could leverage. But as I say, definitely lots more to talk about there if you would like to know more. Okay, just coming together on a couple of last points, and then we'll jump over to Q&A. I think I've seen a couple of questions fly by, so I definitely need to try and get back to answering those. But as I say, anyway, let's just crack on. Hybrid is the new normal for most enterprises. If you can put your hand up, hand on heart, and say, yeah, I'm only in the data center, I'm only in the cloud or whatever, that's fine, completely fine. And I appreciate that there are enterprises and environments which are very unique and focused in one particular area. However, generally speaking, the customers that I have the chance to engage with, most of them have some aspect of virtual system and data center system. It could be that it's a traditional data center, it could be that it's a colo, it could be that it's actual cloud, or it could just be a virtualization layer, etc. The bottom line is there is some level of hybrid system that you are using. And once again, Cpacket are there to help you with that. Second point is the packet data is that definitive source of truth for solving networking issues. I get to go to a lot of shows and have a lot of opportunities to engage with customers and future customers, things like that. And the key thing is the conversation I have again and again is about the packet data. As I say, there are other kinds of data. I absolutely understand that, and I know there's a place for each of those things. But the key thing is if you really want to understand exactly what's going on, not only from a timing perspective, not only from a loss perspective, not only for a did it even get there in the first place perspective. All of those things are answered through the packet data. So capture and analytics based on all of the packet data is going to give you that best view for the future. So cPacket products can be deployed across your environment so that you can monitor and investigate quickly and efficiently. I think I probably could have written that a little better. But the spirit here is that I've got on-prem systems which are running fast. I've got on-prem systems which are running slower. I want to distribute them across multiple locations. I've got a range of cloud environments. Maybe I'm doing my Azure AWS or Azure GCP or whatever it might be. I've got a lot of things going on in my environment. I need to have a solution that matches them all. That is great. And that is exactly what cPacket can help you with. Okay, there we go. Let's see. I hope that we have a couple of questions. I hope we have my my team that's helping me in the background here. Do I really need packet capture in the cloud? That's an excellent question. I believe yes, for all of the reasons that I was just talking about. I know packet access in the cloud isn't always as easy as it is in an on-prem data center environment. And I think that some of my colleagues have done previous webinars talking about getting access to packets in the cloud. So the bottom line is, if you really are a zero downtime enterprise, if that's something that you're aspiring towards, whether it is in that traditional on-prem data center environment, I say the word traditional like it's old. Bottom line is, there's a lot of things going on in the modern data center. So maybe I shouldn't use that word. But the bottom line is that if you want to be able to do something like that in the cloud, you need to have access to the packets. cPacket has a great set of solutions there, and therefore having that capture available in the cloud is a vital piece of the puzzle. So yeah, as I say, happy to talk about that, happy to share maybe a couple of other webinars that we've done previously to cover some of those topics in more detail. Okay, second question. You mentioned large storage capacity such as 2 petabytes. What if I don't need all that storage? Well, that's a good question as well. It's not always the case that you need to capture environments. I was with a customer just a few weeks ago, and they were telling me that they have a very extensive environment, very high performing environment, and the way they kind of chop down those packets and kind of filter things out, they're still only doing about 10 gig capture in the end. And that's really fine. That's great, whatever you need for your environment. So if you don't need those 2 petabytes or 2.2 petabytes, I think I said, bottom line is you can go all the way down, maybe 48 terabytes, something like that, 10 gig capture, all of those choices. We have a full suite of products. And if you jump over to the website, which I'll give you the link for in a second, you'll be able to read up on some of those other systems, give you a kind of a more of a perspective. There's a data sheet, etc. All of those things there. Do I need to connect these products to a cPacket TAPAC device? Well, obviously, it would be great if you did. Unsurprisingly, I'm going to say that as the product guy, but obviously there are plenty of other platforms out there, and you may have a wide range of those through your environment, through maybe acquisitions or systems that you bought years before and they're still working perfectly well. Bottom line is, cStore or our packet capture appliance can exist absolutely in those environments too. You can use a full-on packet broker, you can use a TAPAG system, you can use direct taps, even, to be frank, or span ports. It could be all kinds of different ways you get access to those packets. Obviously, if you use cPacket, I believe your experience is going to be better. But hey, it's key that we have access to the packets. And if you've already got a pre-existing infrastructure, great. I'd love to help you understand what's going on in your environment today. What if I just want to see my packets in Wireshark? Well, that's a great point. I think I covered that a little bit in looking at the product. Wireshark is still central for many network engineers today. Even though I don't do much engineering myself anymore, I still have Wireshark installed on my laptop. So yeah, you can extract those packets. You can generate a PCAP report. You can either use the Wireshark that's pre-installed in the environment, in the systems themselves, and display it live in the environment, or you can maybe use an API call or a save as, extract that set of packets, pull them off the disks, push them off to another storage location, and then you can use the one that's installed on your laptop or whatever. So yeah, we absolutely understand that as part of a debugging and investigating system, or kind of a workflow that you have, you probably need Wireshark in the end. We hope that you've got all the packet data using the brokers. You're going to send that to the capture appliance to generate all the metadata, etc. And therefore, you will be able to hopefully do all of the investigating and understanding at that kind of dashboard level. You shouldn't need to get down to the packets. But if you're like me, you want to be able to do those packets to solve those ultimate challenges, and you're, hey, what's this doing? What's that doing? You absolutely can get to see that both within the appliance as well as on your laptop. Right, let's see if there's any question. How distributed can the machines be? I assume, or I'm going to take that to mean, maybe I should say, I'll take that to mean different data centers or different regions if it comes to cloud. So the point is they can be very distributed. It's going to heavily depend on what your architecture is and what you, as an administrator or leader of a set of administrators, are trying to do. If you're trying to have a setup in possibly an APAC region, in Europe, and then in the US, absolutely, you can just deploy them like that. What we would probably recommend is that you have, obviously you're probably going to have more than one, a set of machines in that region talking to a control center appliance and a CClear, and the same and the same and the same, and then bringing all of those stats together. So the point is they can be very distributed. Same in the cloud. Once again, probably a little bit more to talk about when it comes to availability zones and things like that. So I would definitely point you at one of my colleagues or some of the previous webinars we've done on that kind of a subject. But the bottom line is, the answer is they can be very distributed. We're not talking about having to have everything deployed in one rack. Okay, here's another question. Does the resend have a retry limit? I will try and answer that. Might be good, John, if you maybe reach out as a direct question, I can connect you up with one of our engineering folks. For me, we're capturing the facts of the situation. And if the facts of the situation is you have multiple retries, and you see that that little simple diagram I had showing that something kind of critical has happened to that particular gateway device, whatever that might be in the particular context. Bottom line is, we just deal with the facts, and we'll just tell you what's going on, and we'll show you how many retries there were, etc. Whether your TCP stack has some other kind of settings or optimizations, I can't really comment on that. But certainly from our perspective, from the packet capture and analytics, we're going to just keep saying, yep, retry, oh, retry, yep, you retry it again, yep, definitely something not going on well or correctly here. So I don't know if that answers your question, John, but feel free to reach out. Okay, can I do a POV in my environment? Proof of value, I'm assuming that stands for. And yes, the answer is yes. We work closely with prospects or people who are existing customers who want to try out different parts of the solution, in this case, the packet capture and analytics part. Absolutely. So we'd work with you, work out a kind of a test plan or something, that particular area that you want to investigate more. We can get that set up for 30, 60 days, that kind of thing. Make sure that it's working in your environment and things like that. So yeah, absolutely, we love to do that. And the point is, because we're dealing, generally speaking, our customer base are these large enterprises. They just buy things on a whim. You don't buy things on a whim, no matter how convincing or interesting I sound and make it sound. Bottom line is, it's got to be valuable for you. It's got to address the concerns and the gaps that you have in the data that you would like to see. And so that certainly that is something that we are all intent on doing. So I would love to be able to set up or discuss doing a proof of value. We'll connect you up with some of our pre-sales folks, etc., solutions engineers, and make sure that that is all going to work. Okay, any more questions? They haven't popped up on the screen, so I take it that we are all out of questions today, so that's great. If you'd like to learn more about what's going on, I mentioned this earlier, cpacket.com. cpacket.com, that will help you with data sheets, use cases, other documentation, know a little bit about the product, etc. That'll all be at cpacket.com. But if you would rather hear more from me, can't imagine why, but if you would, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. It's usually the best platform for me. I'm regularly sharing. Maybe you're one of my contacts that you finally decided to join one of these webinars. That's really great. I would love to know what you thought of it. Look forward to getting any comments or feedback on my LinkedIn page. Ian Kenny, all one word, lots of I's, lots of E's in there. And as I say, look forward to connecting up with you. Okay, well, just goes to show, thanks very much for listening and participating and chipping in questions, etc. If you've got detailed questions, something you didn't feel you could share in this kind of relatively public recorded format, I look forward to you reaching out. Feel free to connect up, as I say, on LinkedIn or via the email addresses that you'll find on the website, etc. We'd love to connect. And all it goes to say is thank you very much, and I will see you again on a future webinar. Thanks a lot for your time today.